wide power outage. Cuba's national electric company specified that the power grid was fully disconnected at 2:08 a.m. local time due to the unexpected shutdown of the Antonio Guiterres thermoelectric power plant. Reporting on the progress of recovery efforts, the company unveiled that in the capital, Havana, 12 hospitals and 21 circuits already have service. In this regard, the Ministry of Energy and Mines informed subsystems are already in place and working throughout the country, with the national system gradually being restored. The entity explained that this time conditions are more favorable than in previous incidents since recovery efforts are not being affected by meteorological events. And in this context, the Cuban Minister of Labor and Social Security, Marta Elena Feito, informed that labor and teaching activities in the country are suspended due to the electric service failures, stressing that no workers' salaries will be affected. Feito also pointed out that the decision will be in place while the emergency lasts and that all vital services will be maintained. On Tuesday, the Venezuelan National Assembly approved in first discussion the draft budget law for the financial year 2025, presented by the Executive Vice President Delcy Rodriguez. The legislative body highlighted the truly revolutionary character of the project that marks the beginning of a new cycle in the political, social, and economic life of the Bolivarian nation. The president of the legislative body, Jorge Rodriguez, recalled that the current good health of the economy is the product of the resistance of the people, and the norm that the parliamentarians are now discussing was born from the popular power. Parliamentarian Jesus Faria will now be in charge of referring the bill to the Standing Committee on Economy, Finance, and National Development.
Vice President Delcy Rodriguez arrived at the National Assembly with good news. In spite of the illegal blockade by the United States, Venezuela's economy grew in 2024 and will continue its upward curve by 2025.
The ECLAC had projected a 5% growth for the year 2024, and 8.5% is the GDP growth for the first 3 quarters of 2024. The International Monetary Fund remained timid as always, and we can already affirm that 14 consecutive quarters of economic growth have been achieved in Venezuela.
De crecimiento económico en Venezuela.
Why is it important to highlight it? Because unlike other countries, Venezuela is the rude victim of a siege, of an unprecedented economic aggression.
De un asedio, de una agresión económica sin precedentes.
Growth was expressed not only in Venezuela, but also in Latin America.
And so we see that Venezuela will grow more than Bolivia, Chile, Brazil, Colombia, Ecuador, Peru, and Uruguay, according to ECLAC projections for the year 2025. Venezuela will once again be among the countries that grow the most in the region. You know that our opinionate is, of course, difficulties, of course, vulnerabilities, of course. A country under siege as Venezuela is under siege, of course, but also what a great victorious resistance that our economy has had, mainly by its people.
The presentation of the budget of about $23 billion for 2025, almost 80% of which will be destined to social issues, is the triumph not only of the economic aspect, but also of peace, which will be defended against the plans of the Venezuelan ultra-right wing that are being dismantled.
We have to tell those extremists to their face. There is a national union in the defense of Venezuela, so do not dare, because this people is tired of them, of those who have falsely assumed the condition to speak in a derogatory and denigrating way about Venezuelan women. And to that extremist lady with terrorist plans against the electrical system, against the gas distribution system, we say that we Venezuelan women are here, that we Bolivarian women are here to defend this homeland.
The special emphasis of the resources will be directed to the communal power.
A healthy, self-sustainable economy with an emphasis on our people, and with special attention to the people's power. That is the mandate you have as deputies.
The democratic opposition wants peace. Nothing matters more to us than peace. The democratic opposition rejects the use of violence in politics. It energetically repudiates foreign sanctions. The democratic opposition is committed to the best future for Venezuela, a future of generalized prosperity, so that peace, democracy, and well-being for all may be the sign of 2025. In our most enthusiastic endeavor, the economy tied to social issues is the key.
A survey reveals that 60% of the private sector perceives that the economic situation will improve in a year. The National Assembly approved in first discussion the two bills requested by the Vice President.
Madeline Garcia, teleSUR, Caracas, Venezuela. And the current terrorist escalation against Syria is part of Western plans to divide the Middle East region, fragment its countries, and redraw the maps of the area in accordance with the ambitions and interests of the West. Let's take a look at the following report.
The ongoing terrorist offensive against the Syrian provinces of Aleppo, Idlib, and Hama since last Wednesday, November 27th, has become the main news in the regional and world media. A scenario that benefits the Zionist occupation entity by reducing the international pressure that had been gaining momentum before these events to stop the Israeli aggressive escalation against the Palestinians and their Lebanese brethren.
libaneses.
The terrorists were trained and equipped with advanced warfare devices to fulfill the plans of Western and Zionist intelligence services to attack Aleppo, to fulfill several objectives, including diverting world public attention from what is happening in southern Lebanon, from Israeli ceasefire violations, and from Zionist crimes in Gaza, which is currently far from the world media screens.
The Zionist occupation entity is the main enemy of the entire Arab and Islamic world, and therefore we consider that this enemy is the only one benefiting from the current terrorist escalation against Syria. So we are fighting the same battle in Palestine, Lebanon and Syria against a common enemy, which is the Zionist entity, and its allies in the United States and the savage West.
At a time when many countries around the world are expressing their strong condemnation and rejection of the terrorist attacks on Syrian soil, the United Nations and its Security Council remain silent and inactive, an attitude that the Syrian government and people and their allies denounce as proof of the submission of these international organizations to the will of Washington and its plans against Syria and the entire region.
We denounce the policy of double standards applied by international organizations and the great powers of the world that sponsor and finance terrorist organizations and use them with the approval of international authorities to fulfill their strategic plans in different parts of the world, including our region, and against our governments that they falsely label as terrorists because they do not renounce their sovereignty and do not submit to their will.
In the face of these Zionist U.S. plans that threaten the sovereignty, independence, and territorial integrity of Syria and the entire region, the Syrian Arab Army, together with its allies of the Axis of Resistance and with the support of the Russian Aerospace Force, continues the battle against the terrorists, determined to defeat them and thwart the plans of their financiers.
In the United States, economists predict an economic earthquake if Trump's planned mass deportation of illegal immigrants is carried out. Enrique Melo from New York City tells us more.
Las deportaciones masivas que prometió el
The
presidente
massive
electo
deportations
Donald Trump,
promised by
según
President-elect
expertos,
Donald Trump,
podrían tener
according to
consecuencias
experts, could have
catastróficas para la
catastrophic
economía
consequences for the U.S.
estadounidense.
economy.
There are so many constructions, so many bridges, so many things that are thanks to the work of our people, for the Hispanics who have immigrated for many years. A U.S. citizen will not come to earn $15 or $20 an hour. The U.S. citizen will want to earn more.
Según un reporte del Consejo de Inmigración
According to a
estadounidense,
report by the
indica que
U.S.
la
Immigration
deportación de
Council,
más de
the
11
deportation of more than
millones de
11
indocumentados
million undocumented
provocaría
immigrants
una
would cause a
pérdida del
loss of up
Producto
to
Interno Bruto de
$1.7
hasta
billion in gross
1.7
domestic
billones de
product,
dólares,
a number that would
cifra
put
que
the
estaría
U.S. at the same
colocando a
level
Estados
as the
Unidos
2007
al
recession.
mismo nivel de la recesión de 2007.
The effort and labor that these immigrants put into this economy is huge. California, Florida, and here in Virginia, we are not going to see white people doing these jobs anymore because that is where the migrant population is.
Y es que cuando se habla de mano de obra,
And when it
las
comes to labor,
deportaciones masivas
mass
eliminarían
deportations would
más del
eliminate more than
30% de los
30% of
trabajadores
construction
de la
workers,
construcción,
28%
el
of
28%
agricultural
de
workers,
trabajadores
and a quarter of
agrícolas
janitors.
y una cuarta parte de los trabajadores de la limpieza.
Businessmen who have a fear about losing these working hands, we also invite them to join this joint struggle. And that is where we are going to have to approach these small businesses. Because the big corporations like General Motors or Ford are already resenting these declarations. I believe that all this is a political, economic, electoral game, and we will soon see how everything moves after January 20th.
Según el Consejo de Inmigración estadounidense,
According to the
más de un
U.S.
millón de
Immigration Council,
empresarios son
more than 1 million
indocumentados,
entrepreneurs
y en
are
el 2022
undocumented, and in
generaron más de
2022 generated
27.000
more than
millones
$27 billion in
ingresos,
revenue,
así
as
como
well
en
as
empleos.
jobs.
Inmigrantes de
New
Nueva
York immigrants hope
esperan
Trump
que
won't
Trump
judge the many
no
for the
juzgue a
wrongdoings
muchos
of the few.
por las malas acciones de unos pocos.
Sí le pido al presidente que
I asked
toque
the
el corazón.
president to touch his heart that all of us who are here are not bad. We are people who deserve opportunities, and that they give us the chance to work.
Y que nos den las oportunidades de trabajo.
Practically half of my clientele that I advise at the business level are people who work with an ITIN number. That is, people who do not have a valid social security number, but who nevertheless have companies, businesses, and employ many people.
Según el reporte, inmigrantes indocumentados
According
pagaron
to the
en
report,
2022
undocumented
cerca de
immigrants paid nearly
47
$47 billion
millones
in
de
federal
impuestos
taxes
federales
and more
y
than
más de
$29
29
billion
mil
in
millones
state
en
and local
impuestos
taxes in
estatales y locales.
2022.
Aunque el estudio muestra que el aporte de inmigrantes indocumentados
Although the
a
study
la
shows that the
economía
contribution
estadounidense
of
es
undocumented
indiscutible,
immigrants to the
la
U.S.
posibilidad de
economy
expulsión
is
del país
indisputable.
para muchos
The
sigue
possibility of
siendo un
removal
temor
from the
latente,
country for
por lo que
many
expertos
remains a latent
recomiendan
fear.
contar con un
So
abogado de
experts recommend
inmigración
having an
en caso de
immigration lawyer in
enfrentar
case
una
of
redada
facing
de
a deportation
deportación.
raid.
Pablo Daniel Ho,